everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Nazarene Veronica, and today I'm back with another reaction video. I'll be reacting to a video called It's Madness, Piers Morgan's panel debates identifying as a cat controversy. Yeah. If you haven't already watched one of my previous videos, I reacted to a video recorded by two students in Rye Hill School, which is a school in East Sussex, I think, and one of the students in the class decided they identify as a cat. So yeah, you can imagine where that went. The two students disagreed with that and could see that it wasn't scientific, so they called it out and they said, I don't think this is right. I think if you identify as a cat, then you're mentally ill and you should go to an asylum, which is what my thoughts on it are as well. But the teacher, funnily enough, didn't agree. And she said that they can't have those opinions in the school and said that if they do have those opinions, they should be kicked out. So crazy stuff. Go watch that video if you haven't already watched it, so you can watch the video of the actual interaction before you watch this one. But yeah, this is just a panel on Talk TV debating whether students should be identifying as cats and whether they should be encouraging it, because that teacher was definitely encouraging that behaviour, which is really unfortunate. But yeah, let's have a look.
Well, joining me now is the veteran LGBT activist and human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell, political journalist Ava Santina, and by the best-selling author and conservative commentator Douglas Murray. Well, Douglas, you're safely over there in the United States, so let me start with you before the fun starts here. This stuff reads like a joke, but it's really not funny when you get into the weeds of it. This is limitless self-identity gone bonkers.
Yeah, it's the very stupid results of a very stupid ideology being rolled out by very stupid people. Basically, everything has come unstuck in recent years by the ever-expanding alphabet acronym people, where the fight for gay rights and minority sexual rights turned into this demand, this claim that there was no such thing as biological sex. As Peter Tatchell and others well know, the argument for gay rights was won by saying, we're just like the rest of you. It was also won by saying, you know, we just want to live and let live. Yet the gender ideologues have done something totally different. They've said, you don't have the right to have your own say in this. We are right, and you have to agree with us. They say, we're here, and instead of saying we're here, we're queer, and just get used to it, it's we're here, and as a result, biological reality doesn't exist. Well, clearly, this very, very idiotic ideology is...
First of all, the first guy's Ty just says it all. You already know what his thoughts are going to be. You already know what his opinions are going to be. He's going to be a woke retard who thinks that, you know, you can be whatever you want to be. And Ava Santina is back. I've said this before, I can't stand this woman. She is just absolutely insufferable. Her views are just mental. It seems like she's faking it. It seems like she's trying to have any view which goes against logical views, and she hates men for sure. But I'm confused because she hates men, but she doesn't mind men who think they're women trying to take over women's sports. That's what I've heard anyway. So really, really weird behaviour from her.
Causing havoc. Just today, Piers, there's another tape from a school in Scotland where some poor boy is having to explain to his teacher that there's only two biological sexes and that the gender woo-woo stuff is nonsense. And yet again, it's the student having to educate the teacher because the teacher has been indoctrinated into stupidity due to the gender ideologues.
Okay, Ava, you're laughing. Why?
It's just quite...
Yeah, why is she laughing and shaking her stupid head? She always does this. Whenever anyone's talking sense, she just goes... It's just like, calm down. Yeah, they're talking sense. You can allow them to speak for a bit. She just can't stand logic, it seems.
Confusing, really. I mean, we're talking about children that are 12 and 13. I mean, when I was at school, I had a girl who identified as a horse, but not in this sort of like problematic way that we're now labelling it. She didn't actually think she was a horse. She was just quite strange and walked around and, you know...
But nobody at the school then, no teachers would have tolerated that in the way that this is now having to be tolerated.
No teacher would have tolerated bullying of that child. And that's what this teacher in Sussex has done. They've said it's not acceptable for boys in that class to take the mickey out of someone who's obviously clearly just a child and they're exploring their imagination.
Who says they're a cat?
Yes, but... Piers, they're 12.
And he's actually interfering with the lessons by talking in cat language, including meowing, and if people don't go along with this, refusing to cooperate.
Yes.
That is not just having a bit of fun being a cat. That is actually assuming the identity of an animal that this person is not.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, you can see her face. She knows that she's in the wrong, but she's so stubborn, so masculine, so unable to admit her wrongs that she's carrying on with it. You can see the pain in her face. She knows she's in pain having to keep this opinion going, which isn't really her opinion. She's just trying to be controversial. Come on, Ava. You're better than that.
insisting everybody else conform to it. That is madness.
That's not what's happening. What's happening is there's a child who's slightly more imaginative than their peers and they are acting out this sort of fallacy, and that's fine. But to make it about trans, this is where it gets dangerous, okay? The Telegraph...
Oh, it's very damaging to trans people. I agree.
Right, okay.
I agree with that.
The reason it's most damaging, the Telegraph have been reporting this, it's up 400% in the last couple of years, them reporting trans issues. I don't understand why they've got this weird obsession with going into
Let me explain why.
classrooms.
Let me explain why.
No, it's quite gross.
Let me explain why. When you have in women's sport 6'4" biological males destroying biological females at elite sport level in swimming pools, on racetracks, in other sports, that's when it becomes a full frontal assault on women's rights to fairness and equality.
Yeah.
And when you include them going into dressing rooms and so on and mixing with biological females, then there's a safety issue. When you have, as we had in Scotland, a male rapist identifying at his trial as a woman to get put into a woman's prison and being sent there by the female...
Piers, I cannot believe this. I cannot believe how much sense you're talking. Me neither. Because I don't agree with Piers on everything. I'll just put that out there. But right now he's talking sense. And I can actually admit that because I'm able to see the truth. And I can put my pride to the side when I can see someone's actually talking truth. Unlike this woman over here, who's a prime example of a masculine, delusional woman who doesn't understand what womanhood is, really. Because, I mean, she says she's a feminist and she's always talking about women's problems and how men are the issue and things like that. But right now she's actually saying that men can take over women's sports and that's okay because they're women. What?
Boss of Scotland at the time, who's now obviously in her own troubles. That is why this is happening. Kids are watching all this stuff, and as kids do, they want a piece of the action.
No, Piers, don't be ridiculous. There's no similarity between a child wanting to be a cat when they're 12 years old and someone competing in the Olympics.
Oh, there is.
There is
Peter,
no comparison.
You and I have had a lot of civilised conversations about all this, right? And I want to continue that. I don't think that the trans community gets helped at all by any of this, right? But I don't think it's the media obsessing. I think what you're seeing is as the trans community get ever more active and populous, if you like, for want of a better phrase, and their activists get more aggressive, when they go to battle on things like women's sport, they're losing everyone and they're piling mockery onto the trans community.
If we can go back to the Telegraph article.
Yeah.
It's quite mischievous. Out of the, 1 million or more pupils in our schools, they come up with 5 examples. 5 examples out of 1 million. Now, that's wrong. I agree it's wrong. But, as Ava says, the kids are just acting out fantasies. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be Robin Hood.
But that's fine. That's fine. But the schools should not be tolerating it.
But the schools are not.
A teacher should not be saying, if you believe that women have vaginas and men have penises, you have to leave the school. That is complete nonsense.
No.
Right?
In this particular case, the Telegraph cited this handful of examples. They were by teachers, individual teachers. They were not school policy. And in at least one case, the school disowned the teacher and the policy and said that it wouldn't happen again.
But what about this case in Rye College?
Well, yeah, I'm sure there are some examples of excesses. But on the basis of those exceptions, you can't make a generalised attack upon the school system and suggest that all our kids are being propagandised in this way, because it's simply not
When you hear
happening.
that teacher, I think to bring...
Can I just say, there's so many students who are coming out and saying, my teacher is refusing to acknowledge biological facts. My teacher is telling all the students that you can be whatever you want to be and that's okay. They're being encouraged to do so by the school curriculum. You know, we're being encouraged to learn about, you know, being trans from a young age. So many students are coming out and saying this. Luckily, these 2 students actually had the idea to film it and to film the interaction. So we've actually got physical proof. It's not just students reporting it anymore. It's actual physical proof that it's happening for once, we have physical proof. And he's still trying to say that it doesn't happen as often as you think. But actually, it's happening more often than you think. He thinks there's only 5 examples. No, that's just 5 examples that you could find evidence for. There are many more examples of this happening, and it's sick. And the school system has been corrupted. And that is why I encourage everybody who's watching this video, if you've got children, remove them from the school system, because I'm telling you now, you can do a better job raising your kids than the school nowadays.
Douglas, back in. When you hear that teacher, there's clear evidence of what we've all been fearing has been going on, which is a teacher caught on tape literally spewing nonsensical gender ideology propaganda.
But one teacher.
Yes,
only one teacher.
One
Out of
teacher,
tens of thousands.
Well, hang on. One teacher caught on tape. Right, there have been many other instances of this being reported, but no one's actually had it on tape. It's a bit like, I would liken it to the Partygate scandal, when we finally got a video of the people having what was clearly a party. There have been lots of rumours about it. So now we have a teacher clearly on tape doing this
But
stuff.
it's not official school policy.
If I may,
Schools across the country are
Well,
not,
she's still, to
I'm
my
not
knowledge,
sanctioning this.
she is still working at that school. Douglas.
If I may, first of all, Ava rather unfortunately misspoke earlier when she said that the schoolgirl in question was acting out a fallacy. I think you meant a fantasy. But actually she is acting out a fallacy.
Thanks ever so
fallacy.
much. But do you know what I find fascinating?
She was right with fallacy.
Do you know what's fascinating about Douglas?
Which has been propagated. A fallacy which has been propagated by gender ideologues and is doing profound damage to gay people, among others, in our society, as well as women.
Like
and let me explain very quick. Let me explain very quickly why. I can't quite hear you, but I can hear you muttering something. Let me quickly explain why. A poll that just got published in the United States showed that among the general population, support for gay marriage has been starting to decline in the last year. Why is that? It's because the arguments that actually brought about liberal rights for all minorities in the last few decades have started to get turned on their head and turned against people. What is the source of that? It is the gender ideology movement. What is the tripwire for the general public? It is children. It is people learning that their children are being taught nonsensical things. It is being seen by the wider public, most of whom are heterosexual and don't need to identify as cis or anything else. It is being seen from that vantage point.
But why does Ava look like she's about to cry in every single interview she does? She always looks pained and unhappy, and I mean, look at her face. She just looks like she's crying all the time. She's very emotionally unregulated and she needs to calm down.
As the LGBTQIA plus movement losing control of itself. And so a backlash is starting. And the backlash is coming because people are lying to children and are using children for medical experiments. There's nothing funny about that. There's nothing that should cause levity in that. It should be treated by adults seriously.
Okay, Ava.
So, Douglas, it's really important, actually, all of that point that you've just brought up, it's very on brand for you because, you know, you like to stoke fear. You've actually made a career out of it. I'll take you back to your book, The Strange Death of Europe, and you made a big fright, you frightened the entire public about your thoughts on Europe, and we ended up in Brexit. You weren't the sole contributor to that, but you were a big voice.
Can we stick on to
the
Ava?
I will. And then, now we're talking about LGBTQ.
If I may say so
and you're
very
creating...
quickly,
Hang on, you spoke. I'm speaking.
No,
I'm speaking.
I'll
you spoke.
reply.
This is,
I'll reply.
Hello. I haven't
let
finished.
Ava speak, please. Douglas.
Now, back on the trans issue, when you're talking about LGBTQ, what you've just done there is basically say that the whole of America, who have historically had a problem with gay marriage, are now turning on it because a couple of children in a classroom in Sussex want to be a cat. If you can't see the ridiculousness in that argument, I can't help you.
The bigger issue is there is no such thing as gender ideology. We all have gender identities. You identify as a man, and I fully respect you.
Well, no, hang on. I don't identify as a man. I was born a biological male.
Yeah, tell him, Piers. You don't identify as a man, you were born as one. And so does he. He was born as one too, but he's not going to admit that because he thinks you can choose your gender because he's freaking idiotic. And, I mean, his tie says it all, to be honest.
That's where this whole thing
Piers, you need to let me
goes rogue. I'll bring you back in, Douglas, as I want to say. That's where the whole debate goes rogue. You were born a biological male. You were born a biological female. Douglas, biological male. This is just a fact, right?
No.
Once you start saying there are hundreds of genders and you can identify as anything you want, you're going to end up with kids at school going, I'm a horse. And you've got to treat me like a horse.
Piers, you're confusing two things.
No, I'm not.
Sex and gender.
I'm not.
I accept
they are being conflated.
Biological sex is one thing which I totally accept and so do 99% of the people in the LGBT plus community. Gender is something different. Gender identity is how you see yourself.
And do you believe it's limitless?
No, I don't believe it's limitless.
What's the limit?
Well, there is basically male and female and intersex, but there are people who have different gender identities.
No, but how many genders are there?
Well, there is no fixed number.
So what's the limit?
I don't see a particular limit.
There's a
He doesn't even know what he's talking about. You can tell how confused he is. He doesn't even know what to say. It's such a simple question. If you believe in gender ideology, explain the limit then. How many genders are there? You wouldn't even know. He wouldn't even know. He's got no idea what he's talking about. He's just trying to be...
Now you admit there's no limit.
Sorry.
Well,
there is male and female
is
identity.
there a limit or not to
There's
the number of genders?
identity.
No, that's sex.
But
on gender, is there a limit to number of genders?
Well, there are some people who are asexual. That's an identity.
No, there are
some
the BBC.
People,
the BBC has put in education videos. There are 100 plus genders.
Well, I don't agree with that.
So what is the limit? What's the number?
Well, I'm not going to specify a particular number, but it's very small.
But where do you draw the line?
Well, I draw the line based on science and evidence. And we know that there is a thing called intersex, where people are born with a mixture of both.
That is
male,
literally what it says
that's what it says
on the
female.
tin. That is intersex.
Yeah.
People are born with chromosomes from both, right? That is a medical condition.
Yeah.
That's inarguable, right? We're talking about gender.
But trans identity is also a biological fact.
I know, but once I've
rooted in brain structures and processes.
Understand it, but once
as the new science shows.
But once you get into 100 genders, people can
we're not debating 100 genders.
Well, actually, the BBC has taught kids that. This is back to Douglas's point about affecting the brains of impressionable young kids.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the BBC if they're saying 100 plus genders.
Okay, Douglas.
Oh, you've just gone back on yourself like 5 times in the past 1 minute. But okay. So do you or do you not believe in gender ideology then? I don't understand. I still don't understand what he's trying to say. First he's saying he does. Then he's saying that there's no limit. Then he's saying that there is a limit because it's not 100. So what is the limit? He doesn't even know. It's weird that the gay man is the one who's got the most sense in this situation, because usually when they're debating topics like this, it's the gay people who also agree with it. But there are now a lot of gay people who are coming out and saying that I don't agree with this new age nonsense that you can be whatever you want to be, and it's ruining our reputation because we're linked with them. So props to them, to be honest, because they're actually, speaking for truth of some sort.
Very quickly, I don't know, Ava, anything about your career. I don't know if you have one. But you did try to imply that you knew something about mine, and you just showed you know nothing about it, because actually my 2017 bestseller, The Strange Death of Europe, was not about the EU. So you should learn at some point to read more than the title of the book before commenting upon it.
It was about migration.
Let me very quickly...
And how rude are you? How rude are you?
Very
You've built a career out of fear-mongering, and you're now importing those evangelical American ideas onto UK television.
You haven't even built a career, have you? You haven't even built a career.
What are you talking about? I'm on the same panel as you, Han, and we're getting the same...
Do you know what? I'm going to wrap it up by saying you've both got wonderful careers, or you wouldn't be on Piers Morgan Uncensored.
Oh, man. This is what this woman does. So she goes on interviews and she's debating people on topics that she doesn't even agree with herself. Things that she doesn't even, saying things she doesn't even believe. And then she just basically attacks the other person to try and win the argument by attacking their personal life and things that have nothing to do with the topic they're talking about. As you just saw there, prime example of what she does. And it just means she knows she's wrong and she can't actually debate the topic because she knows that she's incorrect. So yeah. I do not believe that you can identify as a cat. I believe that students should be discouraged from doing so, and I don't think they should be encouraged by teachers. And I don't think people who disagree with that should be kicked out of the school. That's my view. I think that's normal, personally. I think that's I think 10 years ago, that would have been the norm. But nowadays, we've got people arguing for weirdos like that who say that they believe that they are an animal. It's a sad world. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think you can be a cat if you want to be a cat? Do you think you can be whatever you want to be? And do you think students should be encouraged to do so? Comment down below what you think on that. And yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. And I'll see you in the next video.